Hello, this is Simon Brew. I'm the editor of Film Stories magazine, and a very warm welcome to a special episode of the Film Stories podcast.
Sorry about that. I literally had to fly in from outer space.
Come with me.
And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
And movies that had stories.
That the story just sucks them in.
This is just the beginning.
Stories. We would be honored if you would join us.
Hello, and a very warm welcome to Film Stories with Simon Brew. I am Simon Brew. As always, that's absolutely everything you need to know about me. The aim of the podcast, though, well, title gives it away. I'm here to talk of the stories of film. And I tend to talk about development stories, marketing stories, production stories, release stories, all those bits and bobs that go to make the films that we know and sometimes love. Just that, the films that we know and sometimes love. This particular episode is one of my occasional specials where I bring in a filmmaker to talk about their body of work, in this case in relation to a film that's just landing in UK cinemas at the point this podcast is being released. I'm delighted to be joined by Simon Farnaby, who is the writer of the brand new film The Phantom of the Open, directed by Craig Roberts and starring Mark Rylance. This film is based on a book that he previously wrote, which tells the story of Maurice Flitcroft, who in the 1970s was in his 40s when he managed to blag his way into the British Open golf tournament in spite of never having played golf before. Now, over the course of the conversation we're about to have, I talked to Simon Farnaby not just about The Phantom of the Open, but about his television work on the likes of the TV series Yonderland and Ghosts. We touch on the second best film of all time, according to Rotten Tomatoes. Not a fan of Rotten Tomatoes, but nonetheless, Farnaby co-wrote Paddington 2 with its director, Paul King, and that is the film that has been acclaimed as the second best movie of all time, according to that particular outlet. We also touch on a couple of other films. There's a film called Bill, which I'm a huge fan of, which I covered previously in this podcast. That's well worth seeking if you're looking for a really good family movie. And then the 2006 movie Mindhorn, which he co-starred and co-wrote with Julian Barrett. And that is a film too that really deserves rediscovery. So we're going to have a conversation about that too, as well as we're touching briefly on other projects that Farnaby's involved with, such as the upcoming Wonka movie, a Pinocchio film that he wasn't as involved in as I thought, as you're about to hear in the conversation, and a little bit on the planned Magic Faraway Tree movie with which he's also involved. I also ask him about the future of Ghosts towards the end of this. Ghosts is an amazing series if you've not had the pleasure. Hand on heart, I loved The Phantom of the Open. I think it's a really special movie, and I want to be upfront about that before this conversation begins. I think that comes through. I'm going to play you a little clip from its trailer, and then we'll go straight into my conversation with Simon Farnaby.
I didn't choose golf. It chose me. It was destiny.
Sorry! Flippin' heck.
Where I come from, the only job was the shipyard. But I did have ambitions, of course. If you could do anything in the whole world, what would you do?
Drink Guinness.
Pretty soon, my own dreams were put on hold.
Stop this stupid dancing near the TV.
It's not stupid.
Because I had a family now.
Shut it!
A new young man once said he was going to be somebody.
I promised champagne, caviar, diamonds. You should have married him. Then, well, everything changed.
And he's done it. It just goes to show if you put your mind to it, you can achieve anything you want to.
I'm going to have a crack at the British Open.
So that is a clip from The Phantom of the Open. I'm delighted to be joined by the man who wrote it, the man who discovered the story, who did the book, who's in it as well. It's Simon Farnaby. Hello, Simon Farnaby. How are you?
I'm very well, Simon, a fellow Simon. I'm great. Nice to talk to you again.
Well, there aren't enough Simons on this podcast, I think. But we find you by far the most successful of the two Simons here at the moment.
The two Simons here, right?
Yes, that's
okay,
right.
Yeah.
So if we were ranking them in true internet, because everything has to be ranked now, number one would be you and number two would be me. And as someone who's followed your career for quite a while, this feels like the purple patch. This feels like quite a moment we find you in. Because if I've got this right, you've got two films in post-production. You're in the midst of the latest series of Ghosts and The Small Matter of the Phantom of the Open coming out in cinema. I'm just wondering, do you feel that? Do you get any sense that this is like a bit of a thing?
I feel that this is if I don't pay off my mortgage in the next few months, then I never will. This is it now. This is my moment before retirement. Otherwise,
right?
I'm screwed.
So I mean, the box set of things that you're putting out now will be put out as your box set, as your retirement fund.
This is my retirement fund. This is my plan, just to retire and play golf for the rest of my life as quickly as possible.
It's odd you should mention golf. You're far better at the segues than I am here, because I've been digging back through the projects of yours I didn't know about, because I found some like old Edinburgh shows and stage stuff as well. That and it strikes me we've got an intersect here, because I don't know what the Peterford Golf Club was. I just know that that's listed somewhere as a. I assume you know what it is. Listed as a live show, and also you're involved in Ealing Live. And so my cunning, clever question is the Phantom of the Open the intersection of those two things? I'm very proud of that.
Wow. Well, there's a lot to
no now.
There's a lot to unpack there. I see what you're doing. Yeah, sort of Ealing comedy, Peterford Golf Club. I suppose, yeah, it is the intersection I've been looking for between comedy and golf. So you are right. I've tried a few times to bridge the gap and it's failed. As with Peterford Golf Club, there is actually a thing on YouTube called Golf Wars.
Yes, that was with Matt Berry, wasn't it?
Which is Rich Fulcher and Matt Berry, and that was a sort of failed pilot that we did for a comedy set in a golf club. So yes, I've been trying for a while to marry my. It's all because I sort of played golf as a youth, and I was going to be a professional golfer. That's what I wanted to be for.
Were you that close to it?
Well, I could have turned pro when I was 16, because I played off handicap of 4. So I could have, but I wouldn't have been. I'd have worked in a shop, and sort of at a golf club, and had a sort of car with Simon Farnaby Golf Professional written on the side.
It's not too late.
And done lessons and stuff, but that wasn't the life that I wanted. Although I admire club professionals, but so I let that go, and then I got into sort of acting and comedy, and but I suppose I've always been looking for something that could bridge the gap. So yeah, you're right, and it came with the story of Maurice Flitcroft. Yeah.
And so, because I've also got, you did a live show called Lessons Learned Driving a Tractor, which suggests that once upon a time you drove a tractor for a while. Was that? I didn't see a tractor in this film.
No, you really have done some good research. That was a show. Well, my dad was a greenkeeper, and there he learned how to grow grass, and so he then grew grass for a living. And I used to cut the grass on a tractor.
So all of these ingredients there, because the thing that I've always loved about your stuff is the tone. That there's I mean, I'll turn into a grown-up just for a minute, and I find it right the way through the Phantom of the Open. I see in your writing, in the work of yours I've seen, and also in the work that you and I think I can call you the Idiots, the group of 6.
Oh yeah.
There's no punching down to it. You're looking to celebrate. I think, as you put it in the case of Maurice Flitcroft, the people who've gone up a step ladder rather than a ladder. Can I ask where that came from? Why that's so important to you?
You mean the sort of that sort of tone? Yeah, I mean it's I don't know really. I don't know where it comes from, but I think it's sort of, certainly in the case with Maurice, it's a sort of respect for his choices, what he decided to do. I really sort of, the reason I love him is because you sort of laugh at what he tried to do. And then when I dug into it and I spoke to everyone involved, you know, everyone who knew Maurice. Yeah. And it was really crucial to me that what he did came from a place of sort of innocence, if you like, or sincerity, and which he did, thankfully. What I dreaded was people going, oh, he was just joking, he was just messing around, and he knew it was. But no, they went, he was deadly serious. He thought he was good enough. He thought he could do it. So from there, you have to respect that character of that person, you know, and what he's you know, in his life choices as absolutely insane as they seem to most people. And I think that's it really. It's just sort of it's a slight reverence to the subject matter. And also, you know, he's the sort of character that I like. You know, he has a lot of sort of dignity about him. I'm not really one for sort of relying on sort of swearing or toilet humor, and Morris is a perfect character for me because he has a sort of dignity, even though everything around him is falling to pieces. And
there is an excellent F-bomb in the film. I should point
there is, yeah. There's
and
one.
when it's used, it's just it's surgically brilliant as well.
I know, and in the trailer, it's flipping L, flipping which is slightly irritating, but I can see why. I can see why that happened. Yeah.
I remember talking to Dexter Fletcher around the time of the Eddie the Eagle film and appreciating Eddie's story as a lot better known. I can't even talk now. Appreciating that's a far more well-known story. One of the things that Dexter Fletcher talked about was there were various versions of bringing that film to the screen beforehand that were cruel, that were ridiculing him and were laughing at him. And it took, because this comes back to tone for me, to find that perspective on Eddie that they found in the end was not the starting point. Whereas I got the impression from the book that was the starting point for you with this. That always was the starting point.
It was, yeah, definitely. We never wanted to laugh at him, and I think it's because, you know, where he was from. I think it's about understanding where he came from, and I do understand that. And you know, I myself, I got into golf through the lower echelons. Like my dad was a greenkeeper, and so we were the great unwashed, you know.
Yeah.
And so it was weird. I had this love of golf, but I had a sort of hatred of the hierarchy that surrounds golf and the sort of pompousness and the slight. I was always getting told off for wearing the wrong clothes and having long hair, and it really irritated me. And so when I heard about Morris, I really sort of loved him straight off because he felt like he was like me, you know, like one of us, you know, who loved golf, but was had to put up with the sort of Donald Trump types, you know, the sort of the moneyed classes that thought they were better than us, you know. And so part of it is that it's like I know where he was coming from, and I suppose I felt for him, and I did want the audience to root for him to succeed, you know, against all the odds. I mean, it is like Eddie the Eagle, but times 1,000, because Eddie the Eagle, I think, even knew he was an underdog, whereas Morris didn't even know he was an underdog. Morris thought, like, because of where he was from, you know, and his sort of social class, if you like, he had no idea that he was so far out of his depth. And I thought that was great. That's what's funny about it. He just walked into it and he thought, I can do this. He was wrong, but I respect him for that, like, completely, you know, and his sincerity in what he was doing and his belief is like really important, and was really important to me and to, you know, everyone involved in it. Yeah.
Were you also making a point, just a small point about age in the film as well? Because there's two bits that I picked up where there's a line where, and I'm going deliberately vague because I don't want to spoil the film for people who haven't seen it, where it said you take these things up at 6, not at 46. And then there's another line which is pick all the flowers you can while you're still young. And I just wonder if those are linked, if there's something there that you're just trying to, just a little nudge somewhere.
Oh yeah, there is. Because I mean, 46. I mean,
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm well over 46. And it doesn't actually seem so old now as when I started writing the screenplay.
Yeah.
But Morris actually said this thing in his autobiography. You know, he says, people say to you as a kid, if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. And then he said, why does that stop when you get past 30 or 40? It's like people say, if at first you don't succeed, stop. because you're too old, mate, you know. And he just thought, why not? You know, why can't I, you know, take something up late in life? And if anything, you know, I hope audiences come out of that and go, do you know what? I'm going to learn to play the piano or something.
Yeah, I love
because
that.
What have you got to lose?
So you said when you started writing the script, the first news report I could find of this dated back to 2017. That was the first interview I saw where someone said this is actually happening. But when was it actually happening? Because appreciating you went to write the second best film of all time. I think it's second best again at the moment, isn't it? Was it off?
So yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I'll go and sort Orson Welles out for you if you want. But was it the confidence of the Paddington success that led to it? I mean, I know you got Paul King thanked in the end credits of this as well.
Yes. Well, I wrote a screenplay in probably 2009 or 10, a very bad screenplay, and then I wrote the book, and then I wrote Mindhorn, and then helped Paul out with Paddington 1, and then co-wrote Paddington 2, and really learned how to write screenplays, or as much as anyone can.
Yeah.
And so after all that, I went back to the original screenplay and realized it was total garbage. And which of course it was, you know, and that's the point. It was a Flickcroftian exercise. It was like, I can write a screenplay, even though I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. Hadn't even read any books about it. And so, yeah, you're right. It was that I'd learned so much, especially in Paddington 2 and working with Paul and David Heyman, who'd done so many successful films. And that was a steep learning curve. And I absolutely brought all of that knowledge to this screenplay, and it transformed everything really. Just taught me to hone in on the story and the character, and you know, your arcs and what you're actually trying to say. Everything was transformed, and it actually got more close to the truth of what happened. Originally, the screenplay was full of crazy characters that didn't exist in reality, because I thought it needed bolstering, you know, but it didn't need any of that at the end of the day.
Because films don't have the habit of going small, particularly big commercial films. And this is a big commercial film, just wasn't made with a big commercial budget, I think, but it plays to such a broad audience and such a family audience as well. But my frustration with films of that ilk at the moment is the stakes have to be about saving the world or something like that, whereas actually finding much smaller tangible stakes. If you go back to something like The Goonies, the stakes of The Goonies are tiny. And again, I mean, I always, because you've given a few interviews in the past where, again, you talk about the tone and what you're going for. And you did an interview, it was when you were launching Yonderland, where you said you were looking for the last of the summer wine slot, where everyone could sit and watch as a family, and hopefully everything would run for 39 series as well. I think that was the subtext there. But are these the films that you want to see? Is that where you found your happy place?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean,
I'd be fascinated what your Terminator movie looks like. That would be quite a thing.
Well, that's coming next. I know what you mean about the world thing. It's always a sort of note you get from studios and stuff, and you go, "Can the world be at stake?" or something, you know, the end of the world's coming. And really, a lot of times, you know, if you look at something like Rocky, you know, what's Rocky? What's at stake there? It's sort of his self-respect in a way, isn't it? It's like, you know, he thinks he's a bum, and it's similar in a way, I suppose, to that. You know, Morris has got, it's sort of his view of himself, and I suppose his family as well. You know, it's really about a family, and I think you're worried about him and Jean, and Jean supports him, and will that stand? You know, and his son, his stepson, and who's the sort of voice of reason, you know, and yeah, they're sort of I suppose they're films where there's the dominant value, you know, it's like, don't just stay in your place, you know, take the hand that has been dealt to you, and sit down and shut up. And then Morris went, I'm not going to do that. He's a sort of counterculture, voice that says, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be a professional golfer. I'm going to follow my dreams. And it's a crazy thing to do, but I love that. I love stories like I sort of read Don Quixote at probably too young an age to understand it. But I always loved that tilting at windmills, like that pointless, enterprise of just going for it, even though you have nothing to back you up. I sort of love that. I don't know why. But that really sort of appeals to me, rather than going rooting for someone who's got a superpower that can sort of blow up buildings.
Yeah, I always come back to Captain Underpants, which is a really overlooked film, and the stakes.
Yeah, what? I've never seen it. What is his superpower? He's got underpants.
Well, yeah, but the actual stakes of that film are there are two kids who've been separated in class and they want to come back together, and the rest of it is all built around that. And it works, but it doesn't sell. I mean, that was clear from that. There are lots more films they could have done. In terms of this, you got to sit, because I mean, it sounds sycophantic as hell, but I'm going for it. I thought this was an absolute delight of a movie, and I did sit and watch it with my family. I think you've sat and watched this with about 2,000 people, if memory serves, as well. You got to premiere this at the London Film Festival. Given that this, I think of all the projects you've done, has been in your life the longest from start to finish, what was that moment when you were sat in that room as people were getting it in the same way that you did?
Yeah, it was amazing. And we were in the Royal Festival Hall, which was bizarre. I didn't even know you could show a film in there. It was a really beautiful building and great space to be in, and the screen was massive. It was very odd because it was sort of my own quixotic, enterprise. This film is like, I actually never thought it would. I thought it was too niche to make it to the big screen and to get a big audience. And I actually have to thank Tom Miller, who's a producer and he's a friend of mine, who kept saying, this, people are going to like this. This is going to be, I'm going, no one's going to care about this. Someone who's crap at golf and, tried to win the British Open with no skills at all, and you went, no, this is a good story. It has universal appeal. It'll be all right. And I was like, nah, they won't. So, it was my own sort of, my own Flitcroftian enterprise was getting this film made. So I couldn't quite believe it, but it was very satisfying towards the end. There's a few bits where you really know that the audience is with it and are paying attention, and they all really landed those moments. So I was completely thrilled. Yeah.
I wasn't familiar with the story. I'm not spoiling the ending in this podcast. I will just say it completely blindsided me. I had no idea that's the way it was going. And
right, yeah. Well, really, it's a difficult one. It was hard finding that ending, because, and it was something I had to, sometimes finding a story is like mining. You just dig and dig and dig, and then I went, oh yeah, that's the ending. I mean, he was there all along in his story, it's sitting there right in front of you, but your job is sort of to sift through the real life thing and then make it, sort of pull all the pieces around until it makes sense. But it was all there. Morris had done it all for me. I just had to find it, through the rubble.
I think we as audiences are going to get tuned to golf films, because the last time I think an ending took such an unpredictable turn was Tin Cup.
Right, yeah.
And the final act of Tin Cup, I think, is also an absolute delight, because that just didn't go anywhere near where I was expecting it to go. So,
no, Tin Cup. It's a great film, actually. It's one of the best golf films. Although I have issues with the swings in that, just aren't good enough. I'm afraid I'm that guy.
Is that your hill? Are you the person who sits in the cinema and touch?
I just go, there's no way that's a professional golfer. Don Johnson, or whoever it was. I think it was him, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, Don Johnson and Kevin Costner. I was going, that is not, you would be kicked off tour in a second with that swing.
If only you were hosting Film 96 at the time, you'd usurp Barry Norman and you could have put those moments in their place.
100%.
I remember saying, because I thoroughly enjoyed Mindhorn as well, and Mindhorn is a film that just it keeps getting mentioned on my Twitter feed at the moment. Twitter is supposed to be evil, but it seems to be resurrecting Mindhorn. Are you? Because I remember you saying you were quite disappointed that didn't break through at the time. But are you conscious that there's this affection for the film, that it's still living on?
Well, that's very nice. I'm always pleased when people like you tell me this. No, I am a bit aware. Yeah, we were a bit disappointed. I think we thought it was gonna just sort of take off and be much more in the you know at the front of people's minds than it was. But I did go to New York. I went to New York before, obviously, the lockdowns and stuff. It was just before that, to see a Radiohead gig at Madison Square Gardens. My wife's a big Radiohead fan, so I took her for a birthday, and we were in a bar, and these two guys a guy and a girl, started screaming and going, "Oh my God, Mindhorn! It's you! It's Clive!" And I just could not believe it. They were going, "Oh my God!" And they were like getting photos and going, "It's like the most." Me and my buddies, we all get around, we sit and get stoned and watch that movie. I've seen it 100 times. So then I went, okay, because it was on American Netflix. It wasn't on Netflix here or in Europe. But America got it almost on release on Netflix. And so then I was like, okay, this it has reached some audience. And someone told me just today it's on Disney Plus. I don't know why it
went up like a week or two ago on Disney Plus. That's right. So Disney Plus is your go-to place for action films, erotic thrillers,
right?
Really violent, dark stuff. I'm not even making this up. It's just like I scrolled into like the dark recesses of it. There's all sorts of mucky stuff in there, and Mindhorn.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well,
that's what I should put on the poster.
Yeah. Mucky stuff in Mindhorn.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're missing something there. I mean, one of the reasons I'm delighted you're having so much success at the moment is you've done and been involved with so much stuff that deserved more success, because Yonderland clearly is a masterpiece. And
yeah, I loved Yonderland. Yeah,
I mean, 3 seasons of what looked like really hard work, no easy options taken whatsoever. And again, because I got the sense when you came to the end of Yonderland, it was a little bit that it wasn't finding its audience because it was tucked away on Sky. And it's like Bill should have had a sequel. I remember you talking about Bill 2 at one point. It's just like, are these things you will ever, for us on our side of the fence, are you ever tempted to go back? Is there ever a way back to that? Appreciating you're conquering the world deservedly with Ghosts at the moment.
Yeah, Yonderland we all so affectionate about Yonderland, but yeah, it was on Sky, which is great, and but it struggles to get the sort of big audience that you really want doing something like that. Bill was sort of more irksome because it was just a victim of I think the distribution company.
Yeah.
Collapsed just before we were about to be distributed. So we
That's
were then involved in a sort of fire sale and were picked up by another distribution company that without wanting to badmouth them seemed to have a philosophy of like, I wonder how little we can spend releasing a film. It was like, I think my Edinburgh show, Driving Tractors, had more posters than Bill. So it was a real shame, because it was a great I loved that film. It was brilliantly written, and we were all sort of, I think, at the top of our game sort of performance wise, and it was a lot of fun, but it's being found by people find it all the time. It's like you're saying with Mindhorn
on iPlayer the other week. Yeah. I remember at Den of Geek we went absolutely not over the top. We really championed Bill, and it was one of those, nobody could find it. And when they did, it's just like they absolutely loved it. So basically, I'm taking from this, you're definitely doing Bill 2, and you're definitely bringing Yonderland back. That's what I'm taking.
I mean, if you want to run with that and construe
I mean, it's the internet, it's clickbait. You were involved. I remember it was announced a few years ago. You were doing the Faraway Tree. You were adapting.
Yes,
that. Is that still alive?
That is real. Yeah, that's actually come back. I think that's supposed to start shooting next spring.
Oh, okay.
That is definitely happening. Yeah.
And amongst your other exciting project, I should point out my 9-year-old wanted me to do this interview with no trousers on as a tribute to you.
As a tribute to Ghosts. Well,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
might
yeah.
not have any trousers on, as far as I know.
well,
I can't see
absolutely.
what's going on down there.
Well, audio, what can I say? Clothes are overrated. But you've got Wonka that's, I think, just wrapping up now. You've written Pinocchio for Tom Hanks and Robert.
I know
Zemeckis.
that's
right. I mean,
that's misinformation.
Is it?
That's fake news.
Oh, damn it.
No, we were involved with Pinocchio in the very early days, but I think it's had a few people at the helm, and it was all very amicable, but we sort of stepped aside from that. But Wonka is, that I think finishes shooting next week with Timothy Chalamet is playing Willy Wonka. It's a young bit, sort of before the Chocolate Factory.
So what's, because I'm just about to get the wrap up on this. So Phantom of the Open comes out in cinemas at the end of the week, and you've got all these, you're in the midst of Ghosts at the moment. What else is beyond that? What were the other scripts you wrote in 2009 that since you've written Paddington 2, you're going back to rework?
I don't think there's any left. I do have some children. I wrote some children's books.
We've got
Wizard
those
in My Shed.
Yeah, got those.
And The Warrior in My Wardrobe. That are. I can't say too much, but they are looking like we'll hopefully adapting those for TV. That's quite far down the line. So there's that. I mean,
Ghost
I really
movie? Would that happen?
A what?
A Ghosts movie.
A ghost movie. Hey, who knows? I mean, the thing about ghosts is they're not supposed to age, so we can't keep doing it for too much longer because
no, don't end that.
We'll all start losing our hair and stuff.
I'm not breaking the news that you're ending that. No, don't end that.
Well, look, I said nothing.
I understand that, and so the last project for you to do is clearly a mucky film for Disney Plus, and then I think you've completed the set.
Then it's all done.
Brilliant. Huge congratulations on the Phantom of the Open. I think it's a really special film and a film that a family can watch as well. And I can't tell you how much I personally appreciate that. Simon Farnaby, it's been an absolute delight. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. I really enjoyed talking to you. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I hope
really
everyone enjoys it.
And that brought to the end my conversation with Simon Farnaby, primarily about the Phantom of the Open, but I think you can probably hear we talked about a lot of things. The Phantom of the Open opens in UK cinemas on the 18th of March 2022. Do seek it out if you get the chance. It's the kind of film that doesn't come along that often these days, really, and I think it should. You can also find Ghosts currently on BBC iPlayer. Series 4 of that is currently shooting, and we wait to hear more on the likes of Wonka on Faraway Tree, and we'll hear from other people clearly on the Pinocchio movie. Which brings to the end this special episode of Film Stories. Thank you, as always, for listening, and thank you for your time. If you're not entirely tired of me waffling on, you can get more of it on Twitter at Simon Brew. You can get more from the entire Film Stories project at Film Stories Pod. At our website, filmstories.co.uk, it's updated every weekday with movie news, mayhem, all sorts of bits and bobs. And at store.filmstories.co.uk, you can pick up copies of our print magazine as well as magazines, as well as our Sneakers Blu-ray. That's to be found there too. For now, though, you all stay well, you all stay safe. I'm going to be back soon with your regular episode of Film Stories. Until then, as always, thank you for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.